Hello, everyone. This is Dave Menapace with the Hassle-Free RE podcast. This is episode 5. And for today's guest, I have Cody. Cody is a real estate investor out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Him and I actually met on Bigger Pockets, I think. It was Bigger Pockets or Facebook. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, I think I messaged you on Bigger Pockets.
That's right. That's right. And today I'm going to have Cody share his story and what he's doing for real estate investing, where he's from, what he's done, where he's going, all that super fun stuff. So without further ado, Cody, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about where you're from, how you got into real estate, and then before you know it, I'll be asking a million questions. So it'll be great.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, my name's Cody. We live in Chattanooga, Tennessee right now, me and my girlfriend Megan. But we just moved from Arizona, just kind of on a whim. Honestly, we're still in our mid-20s and we don't have kids or anything like that. So I had got out of the Navy in 2018, went back home, met Megan through cycling. She was a traveling physical therapist and was kind of coming through the area, and we ended up meeting. She stayed there a little bit longer term. And then I grew up in where we met. And so we were kind of like, hey, let's go try something
Arizona.
Different.
That was in Arizona. That was in Arizona.
Yeah, in Arizona. I had done some traveling in the Navy, but I was trying to, expand my career and everything. And I was like, it's just not going to happen here. So we started looking into places to move. And I don't know anybody in Tennessee, but we just kind of started hearing a lot about Chattanooga. And then just through Bigger Pockets and a lot of other just networking, I kept hearing about Chattanooga and people in Chattanooga. And then what ultimately did it is her parents retired in Johnson City, and they were like, hey, you guys should check out Chattanooga. And I was like, well, there's Chattanooga again. So we flew out here. And then
how far is Johnson City from Chattanooga?
3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like
out here, and
yeah,
that was kind of it. But yeah, so I was in the Navy for 4 years in a maintenance field on aircraft, and then I got out of the Navy and I've stayed in the maintenance field. I'm a service advisor in the automotive field, so that's what I do. I write service, and then I started getting interested in real estate as I was exiting the Navy. And it was, I was able to focus more. I knew I wasn't going to be bouncing around all the time and gone a month, back a month, those types of things. And I think I was just read the 10X rule while I was
I'm listening. I'm reading that now, and it gets
so that's what got me kind of interested.
Up.
And then I started looking into it, and I just couldn't turn it down. And but yeah, so that's what I do full time. I work in the automotive industry, and then I bought my first property in 2019 and just kind of picked up from there.
So did you go into the Navy right from high school?
I did. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
And where was high school? What part of Arizona?
Sierra Vista, Arizona. It's down right on the border of Mexico. If you've ever heard of Tombstone, Arizona, or Bisbee, Arizona, it's 20 minutes from there.
Just Phoenix. Well, I may have heard of a few others, but Phoenix
3 hours south of Phoenix. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I was in Phoenix a little over a year ago. My wife and I were nuts, and we got a second Great Dane, and we flew to Phoenix and drove from Phoenix to Boston in oh God, it was only about 20, maybe it was 30 hours. We just went for it. We were pregnant, didn't really feel like stopping much, and just totally went for it. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so Navy happened. Towards the end of your time in the service, that's when you started getting interested in real estate. And so just want to make sure I kind of have the timing right. So you started getting interested in real estate. You're looking for a city to kind of park it next, a new city to go to. And it seems like you had some flexibility because you, in terms of work, because you had the ability to kind of go look for a new job. And then for Megan, it seems like her job was pretty flexible in terms of location as well, given that it was sort of a traveling physical therapist situation.
Yeah. So I got back home in 2018, and I did actually stay there for almost 3 years. And in that time is when I met Megan, because she was traveling through there and all that stuff. and so it was a couple years had gone by, and I had already bought my first property and had my first rental and house hack by then. And then, which is my last house hack is what I sold before we moved here. And basically the move here was kind of career move on both of our ends. For me, it was mainly real estate because I kept hearing about the area, and
Yeah.
that's my end goal, even though I'm still working. And then my job, I mean, is the demand's pretty high everywhere. So I was
Right.
able, I had a job months before we even moved out here.
That's
So it
awesome.
just worked out really good. Yep.
So for everyone that doesn't know, can you explain, you kind of touched on it, you had a rental and a house hack. Can you explain what a house hack is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's many different versions of a house hack. You can either live in a single family house and people rent out the rooms or rent out the basement or make some type of ADU, basically, whether it's attached or detached ADU.
Hmm.
Or like my first house hack was basically like a live and flip. I actually bought it as a rental. I rented it out for it was about a year, and
Yep.
then when they moved out, I moved in and just renovated the whole thing. And then when I was
Nice.
done with it, I sold it. But a house hack is basically just renting out your primary residence in one way or another
Hmm.
to reduce your monthly expenses. Ideally, you live for free or to live in a nice place for,
Right.
pretty. So
Yeah, it's so what Cody's saying here is that in a lot of times, if you listen to some of the other podcasts, one of the popular ways to get into real estate investing is to house hack for the exact reason that Cody was saying. It can significantly reduce your living expenses for sure.
yeah.
Um, so how long did you own that? And was two questions. Was that house in your hometown that you were living in? And um what was it like being a landlord and then eventually selling that house?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was in my hometown of Cerro Vista. So I'll cover. I have one more thing to cover before that. Actually,
Oh,
before I
cool.
bought the property, but that house particularly, yes, it was in Cerro Vista. Um, I bought it. So how I bought it was actually off market, but a lady I knew who's a realtor knew I was starting to get interested, and it was rented Section 8. She just brought it to my attention. I had just got out of the Navy on deployment too, so I had some money to actually, I used all my own money. I bought it. It really it cash flowed only like barely $100 a month, but I held
Yeah.
on to it for a year. They had been there for like 5 years. It was an older couple, and basically when they moved out, it was just this worn out rental that had been, you know what I mean, but it wasn't anything crazy.
Hmm.
And so when we moved in, I mean, just paint floors. We turned it from a 2-2 to a 3-2.
Yep.
Uh, Floors we took out on the West Coast or in the desert. They use what's called swamp coolers. It had
What's
swamp
that?
coolers. It's air conditioning,
Okay.
but they basically use water. They basically use air to pass through like a wet sponge, and it cools the air down and blows it through the house. So it does cool the house in non-humid environments,
Yep.
but it blows humidity through your house essentially. So it's an old school way of cooling. They
Right.
use
Right.
it in the
That's interesting.
lot, but yeah, but we tore that out and put regular AC in, new furnace, and then really it was just floors, paint, fixtures,
Right.
updated the kitchen, um, those types of things,
Right.
uh, and that went really well. And so then when we sold it, I think I bought that one for 105,
Yeah.
and then put about 30K into it, and then sold it for 190. So it
It's
cash
pretty
flowed for,
awesome.
yeah. So it cash flowed for like $100. I mean, nothing crazy, but for a year. And then I put about, like I said, about 30K into it, and then we sold it for 190.
So you essentially, I mean, with that, you made what, 50, 60K right off of that?
Yeah, we grossed 60K after taxes. I mean, I ended up netting like, um, after realtor fees and taxes, I
Right.
ended up a little bit over 40.
That's pretty
So it
sweet
worked out.
though.
Yeah,
Not
it
a
worked out
bad,
really.
yeah,
Yeah, and that
not a
was in
bad.
2019. And then I used that money. I just held on to that, and we moved out here, and then I bought a duplex and then another single family house that we're currently house hacking.
Nice.
Um,
So, and that
but
was when
since we're
you
talking
and
about,
I, That was when you and I met then, I guess. I guess it was about a little over
Yeah.
a year ago, right?
Yes. Yeah. So that was my first legit deal. But I guess since we're talking about deals real quick,
Yeah.
because there's one, like my first one isn't really a deal, but my first like just stab at trying to get some type of rental, which it's still rented today, but I don't own the property or anything. It's actually my mom's property.
Huh.
And so my mom owns a house in Cerro Vista, Arizona, and it's got the single family house, and then staggered the same exact size behind it is the same exact size building, and
Huh.
half of it's a garage and half of it was like a game room, like just a hangout area. It had power but no plumbing, and we always, growing up, we always had like a TV in there and
Sure.
couch, ping pong table, those types of things. And as I was getting interested in this, I was like, man, I don't know, I was scared to make the jump, but like I still wanted to try to do something. So I basically partnered with my mom in a way to where she let me use the property, and I just upfronted all the cash,
Yeah.
and I turned that side of the building into a studio apartment.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so and everything's built on slabs there. So I mean, we had to break the concrete and run like the drains. The electrical was already there, but we had to update the panel to get
Right.
the
Right.
fridge and the stove, like everything on its own circuits.
Right.
And I put a washer in there, just everything, really, everything
Yeah.
to make it livable. A little kitchenette, all that good stuff. Put some walls up and built a bathroom,
That's very
um,
cool.
which we hired out. Yeah, so that became a studio. I rented that out. It's still rented by the same lady, and in turn, like, um, my mom let me do that so I could like just kind of break the ice and get it flowing,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
super cool.
in turn, like her property value goes up.
Right.
And she's also getting close to retirement, so the idea is, uh, it was about like 13K to do that. So um, in like less than a year, I should have that back now. But the idea was to get the money back because it was just an experience builder, and
Hmm.
then she can use it for supplemental income. She's about to retire, so that
That's so
that
cool.
was my actual first ever experience doing anything. And unfortunately, like there's no ownership there, but
Hey,
it is a good experience.
it's in the
It's
family. That's
yeah,
really neat.
yeah, it's cool.
And also you got, because I know that you've been doing a lot of this work yourself. That probably was good. Was that your first experience doing that
Yeah,
level of
with like
construction?
any type of with any type of remodel or anything, like I hired out the electrical, the plumbing, and getting those walls built for the bathroom. But I just did like whatever I could. I did the paint, I hung some shelves,
Right.
like the fixtures, anything that I could do. Um, Installed the little like it was a AC slash heating unit, just one unit. Just anything that I could do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
God, that's really neat.
shortly after that was done, I bought the first single family. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. So there was sort of the we'll call it the joint venture studio. There's the house hack. And
Yeah.
then
That gave me the confidence to where I was like, okay, I could do this. And then I
right.
used, and then I just started looking for something else, and someone actually just brought it to my attention. So I was able to get it
Right.
the next house. Yeah.
So you then went to Chattanooga. When you moved to Chattanooga, were you renting or did you buy something first and move into that?
We tried buying something before I got here, but I couldn't because they wouldn't use my current income or anything. They said I
Got it.
had to be working here first. So yeah, we rented a little fully furnished 2 bedroom, 1 bath house here. There's a lot of those, just like little 2 1s here, and we rented it fully furnished. That's an interesting story too, which we can get into later. But we rented that for from August to, I mean, by December by the end of December we were moved into this place already. So it was only a few months.
Yeah. Well, let's hear that interesting story about the 2-1.
About the rental, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you maybe even have heard of her down here, but and we don't have to name drop, but the landlord of that property, once we were on the tail end of moving out of there, I ended up meeting her at one of the real estate meetups, but I didn't know that she was my landlord yet until we got talking, and we were talking about how I was renting this house off Suwannee, and they're like, "What's the address?" And then they just ended up being the owners of it, so that was super funny.
So
And so now we see them all the time still. Yeah.
That's really funny.
Her, yeah,
You should ask her to
she's got
buy
a
it.
few rentals, and then her boyfriend does wholesaling and stuff like that. So
Got it, got it.
yeah,
Do you primarily go that I think it's what, the first or the last Thursday every month in Chattanooga, that one? That
primarily that one and the same group. They do it on Saturdays too.
Oh, awesome. That's cool.
Um, I think that one's like either the I think that one's like the first Saturday of the month, and then
Yeah,
the Thursday one's the third or last Thursday of the month.
got it.
We go to those pretty consistently. Yeah.
That's awesome. In Boston, it's interesting. There's this one guy that runs like these four, they're all the same, but these four meetups in like Southern New Hampshire, Western Mass, and somewhere around Boston, like the Lowell area.
Hmm.
I haven't gotten to them just because they're like 40, all of them are like 45 minutes away. You know, I mean,
Right.
like they're just kind of far.
Yeah.
Um, but so let's talk about this. Okay, so you guys were in the house that you were renting.
Yep.
Um, Kind of the next couple questions. How long did it take to find your first deal, and what did you do to find the first deal, I guess?
Yeah. The first deal here was a duplex here in Chattanooga,
Hmm.
and I was just looking mostly the MLS because I have yet to land like a true off market deal yet, as far as like just an organic like off market
Right.
deal. Um, but through the meetups and just networking and bigger, just talking to as many people as I could, is I started working with a realtor here,
Hmm.
and he had another investor, a bigger investor that was selling off a lot of his smaller rentals because he started buying commercial, and that's how that one came about. So I went and
Yep.
looked at it after I'd been looking at a bunch, and this one, it, it just had a lot of deferred maintenance, but really the biggest thing, and I paid market price for it. Like it's fair market value. I didn't get a deal or anything like that. But the
Right.
biggest thing was it was severely under rented. Like they're big units, like 3 bed, 1 bath each side with a 1 car garage. Um, and they were just really under rented. So I was like, that was the whole strategy, was going
Right.
through that, just fixing them up a little bit and getting it rented out. And then um, that was 1 month, and then the next month I closed on this house because I had just sold, and I was looking, so it was just
Right.
back to back, and then I've been kind of stagnant since then. But we are actually finally wrapping up that duplex, so I'm getting back
Yeah.
into really need to start looking for something else. But yeah, that's how that came about, and that one was I used a hard money loan because
Yep.
again I just started working here, and I was making way more than I almost doubled my income doing the same job just by moving here, which was kind of interesting, and I didn't really realize that was going to happen, but that was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but they couldn't do anything with it really,
Yeah.
and so I was like, all right, well we'll just use hard money. So I actually used lending home for that one,
I've used
which
them
is
for a few. I
Diaby now, and it was super
three.
simple. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
super simple. I mean, they didn't even check like bank statements or anything. It was crazy.
No, they're easy.
Yeah, it was super.
I
It was
like
my first
their
that,
I
so it was
like
cool.
their draw process is easy too on
Hmm.
the construction.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've used them for three now. Three of
Hmm.
ours.
I did their 30-year fix though.
Oh,
I didn't.
got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Just like an investment loan. Just
Yeah, it was just put 25% down and call it a day.
yeah.
I thought about doing it the other way, but the tenants that were in there, I planned on keeping because they wanted to stay.
Hmm.
And that's another interesting story too, just how it worked out with them, which we can touch on before we hit the house hack if you want.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask one quick question, then we'll get into
Yeah.
that. One thing that is really interesting to me that and because there's been a few houses we've bought now in Chattanooga where again it's almost like we get them because the rents are super low, maybe 50% of what they should
Yep.
be. And what's interesting is like in Boston, it's expected at like the 11-month mark of your lease, you pretty much get, unless you specifically sign a longer term lease, the second you go month to month, I should say it's rare that you even get a chance to get month to month because the landlord usually looks to lock you up for a full term, a full year.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's pretty rare in the Boston area, at least where I was renting, that you would get to renew your lease at the same rate. It always went up 3 to
Yeah.
5% every
Oh
year.
yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that happen in Chattanooga too, or is it
Well, I think if it's being managed properly, yeah, it
Mhm.
should, especially with how much rent growth is coming through here right now.
Insane?
I mean, I shouldn't say right now, like really, like from who I've been talking to the past 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
It's not quite at a Denver, Colorado, or like a Seattle
right.
area yet. But I mean, that's another real huge reason why I wanted to come here is because it's probably going to be at that point at some point. But anyways,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of just people managing their own stuff here. And maybe like the process isn't in place, or they're like, hey, these tenants have been with me for a long time. But yeah, even today, with all like, if you hop on right now and look at any duplex, triplex, house, whatever, I mean, 90% of them, even if they're nicer and fixed up, they're still under rented.
right.
It's crazy.
And
Um,
it is. So let's hear the story. Let's hear like the how they want to stay that.
oh, yeah. So, well, at first I wasn't gonna do anything. There was some outside stuff we had to do. The roof had been like, you could see the inside where it had stained a couple spots because I mean, the roof was like older than 20 years. It was old. But it was in good shape. It just had some seepages somewhere. Anyways,
Sure.
so we did some outside stuff. We put a new roof on it. We fixed the gutters so they drain away from the house and this and that. And then they wanted to stay. So I was just gonna basically do a small increase, which they were okay with, and I was gonna leave them be until they decided to leave, and then I was gonna renovate both sides once they left. Well, the duplex it's built on a hill, right? And like so the driveway kind of goes up, and then the back of the yard just kind of keeps going up. And long story short, there had some water issues in the basement, which I knew when I bought it, but it just looked like moisture, not like water. You know what I mean? But after having it for a while, the right side specifically, and this was before I put it under management, but he would email to me and said, "Hey," and it was always after a really long hard rain or like a slow, steady 3 day rain. He's like, "Hey, we get like a little bit of puddling downstairs, and like I said, the downstairs is finished. Half of it's a garage, half of it's the third bedroom slash like laundry room,
Right.
and it was causing issues, obviously. So I was like, man, I might need to like get this place taken care of sooner than I thought. So I was like, okay, no problem, because I knew it was there and I was going to fix it later at a different point. And so I gave them both 60-day notices. And I was like, if we're going to be in there doing work, like we're going to get both sides
Go
done, just
for it.
get them out of here. Um, and they have been there for like 5 years and they really like the area. They both gave me a hard time, obviously. Both sides did. And I was like, I'm sorry, but this is kind of, it is what it is. There's moisture issues down there. They were getting, he's told me before he had to throw a couch away because it was getting some mold on it
Oh man.
because
Yeah.
they didn't have like a dehumidifier or anything down there. So I was like, I mean, this is like safety issue, health issue. I mean, we got to get it fixed. And they didn't want to leave. So actually, the right side was okay with it. The left side was like giving me a really hard time. Didn't want to leave. He was like, I don't know why I can't just stay. He was like, why can't I come back when you're done? And I was like, well, you can. I was like, I mean, if you want to do that, I was like, I'm gonna fix the issues. I'm gonna fix the place up. And I was like, the rent will be this much. And he was like, okay, that's fine. And I was like, all right, awesome. So
Just like that.
I had him sign an agreement that he was responsible for his own move out costs and storage. And I
Sure.
told him to give me 30 days to get it fixed. And then so I was like, you know what? Maybe the right side would want to stay too. So I emailed him and he was like, yeah, we would love that because they didn't want to go apply for a new place and pay first month's rent and all that stuff. And they're comfortable there.
Oh, I didn't
And
think of that.
so he was like,
Nice.
okay. He's like, yeah, that would be awesome actually. So same thing. They moved out all their stuff. We got in there, we fixed the basement, we put in a drainage system from the inside. It's a big ordeal. Although also, that was another big cost that I didn't the cost of it I calculated wrong because in Arizona we don't even have basements. But anyways, it got all fixed. On the left side, he only wanted the basement fixed. We made it nice. We put in nice floors. We painted all that
Sure.
stuff, and we didn't do anything upstairs because nothing's broken. It's just outdated, but there's no issue up there. And so we went from 865 to 1050 on the left side.
That's pretty
But then
awesome.
the right side, he moved out. He was cool with everything. So he moved out all of the stuff. We fixed the basement, same thing, paint, floors, fixed the water issue, put vapor barrier in there, all that. Upstairs, redid everything, floors, paint, new appliances, updated the kitchen and the bath. And so we went from 860 to 1450.
Whoa.
And he was cool, with it. And so,
Wow. I mean,
I had the
new
same
nice
tenant.
place to live. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, they got like a nice, fresh place to live in the same area that they like, and didn't have to really deal with moving. I mean, they had to
Wow.
move a little bit, but yeah.
What'd you buy that house, that duplex for when you bought it?
I bought it for 234.
Okay.
So in that neighborhood, though,
What part of
um,
Chattanooga is it in?
it's in Eastridge on the south
Nice.
end of Missionary Ridge, though.
Okay.
So it's in this cool little area that the whole street is nothing but duplexes, these bigger duplexes with garages and everything. And anyways, what I was getting at is the on that street they're selling for, depending on how fixed up they are. I've seen them selling from 270 to just under 300 because of how big they are.
Right.
And but so like 2 weeks after I closed on mine, one at the very end of the street that was really nice, fixed up like how ours is going to be when we're completely done. It closed for 294, and his rents were low. I'm telling you, like still under market is what I'm saying. Even these fixed up ones are still under market. Once I
Yeah.
get both sides to
Yeah.
1400 ish or so, I mean, it should refi really, really well. I mean, potentially depending on how the market is if and when that happens. Um, I mean, somewhere close to about 300 probably.
See, that's what I love about Chattanooga. Like, this stuff is still affordable and manageable, and money is still, even with interest rates going up, money is not hard to come by. It's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what I love about there is that the price is still reasonable. I mean, 234, right? Like, is not bad at all to be
Right. Yeah.
where
A
you
lot of
in like 1500, 14, or no, 24, 2500 a month.
it brings in, so we went from 1725 to 2500 a month.
Gosh, it's awesome.
So
It's
basically, I mean, that's basically a 1% deal um,
right.
with the rent increases. So that worked out really good. But yeah, it depends on who you talk to. Like the people from here, they think that 2 to 250 is high for a duplex, but
Right.
they saw when people were buying, they've been here since when people were buying duplexes for 150, 175, and those still exist, but they're probably vacant. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Right.
that area, they're big duplexes where you can get. I mean, honestly, if I would have had them actually leave and fixed up both sides because it has a 1-car garage and it's a 3-1 and it has a front porch and a back porch. I mean, realistically, I probably could have got 1500 per side on that one, but they wanted
Right.
to stay and I was willing to do that. I
Right.
didn't even deal with any vacancy or anything like that. So, but yeah, it just depends on where you buy. Most of
Dude,
the
I
duplexes
love
here
that.
are 2-1s, and but you can still get between 1,000 to 1,200 bucks a side,
Right.
depending on what area it's in.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, so right now, right, you still have the studio, the finished studio,
Yeah.
back in Arizona.
Yeah.
You have the duplex, and then you have your house, which is that you're in right
Rented.
now, which is technically a duplex as well, right? Or it's
Yeah. Basically, I mean, it's it's being used as a duplex basically.
right,
Our basement is a full studio with a kitchen and bath and everything.
right,
Um, but we still have so there's a door that would normally go to the basement, and as long as you keep that door, we didn't wall it off
right.
because of zoning and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
It just has a double-sided deadbolt, so you need a
Okay.
key to open it from either end.
Right.
but that keeps it to where it's a single family and you didn't have to deal with any of that. Also, it's on the same meter, and it was basically just for.
That's kinda
So
nice.
basically, the exit strategy is when you go to sell, it's really just a mother-in-law suite, is all it is.
That's great though. I
Yeah,
mean, you don't have to deal with any of the zoning or any of the stuff that happens with that.
yeah, yeah.
So
So it's
what's
just a single family with a mother-in-law suite, essentially.
yeah,
Yeah,
maybe we'll buy it off you whenever you're like, dude, I'm ready to
that's
move
right.
out.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest challenges you're facing right now in as being an investor?
Right now, because I'm still working full time.
Right.
And a normal week is a 50-hour week, which isn't super duper high, but it's really not that low either.
Right.
So the biggest struggle I'm having right now is consistency, especially with, like I
Sure.
said, we had the project downstairs, which is done now, and the project at the duplex, which is basically done now. Um, but with all that going on, it's been really hard to look for other deals.
Right.
Basically, consistency of deal flow has really been hard because I'm not spending a few hours a day looking. I'm trying to come up with a process that's going to allow me to, whether it's mailers or some type of process that's always doing something, even if I'm not actively looking that day.
Right.
That, and then my next struggle is also, which is everybody, but now that all that's happened, I've done a deal, I was able to sell, make a little bit of money plus what I had saved, but then I immediately bought two more properties and rehabbed them. Is I'm running out of my own personal money.
Right.
So the thing is going to be, I've used all my own money through all of these. So um, it's going to
That's
be learning how to do something creative, make it go a little bit further, use a little bit less of my own money, and that's something that I
right.
need to just do a couple times to get comfortable with
Yeah.
those time and meeting timelines and all that. What that comes with it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because like the first, I guess all the deals, not all, but all of the long-term rental deals that my partner and I have done, it's either been his own cash or my own lines of credit.
Yeah.
And it was great because some stuff fell through with financing like the day before the first house we bought with the day before close. Didn't really fall through. It's just they weren't going to make the deadline.
Yeah.
So we booted them out and we just bought the whole house cash and then found a different hard money lender to like do a refinance with.
Yeah.
And it was great. We cut our teeth on that. We've really cut our teeth in some sort of way with like everything. You just like sort of not fumble your way through, but you feel like you're always hitting the bumpers on like the bowling alley, right? Until
Yeah.
you finally get to the end. Um, but like you, cash is the crux. It's like you can only do so much. Like money can only take
Right.
you, your own money can only take you so far.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we bought two houses with some, you know, colleague capital, some investor capital from some friends. Um, and we are getting presented with opportunities for a lot more. And I've found that I am way stricter on the underwriting of a deal than I normally would be. Because when it's my own money, I'm kind of like, well, if it doesn't work, I can do this or I can do that. I can sell it. I can think of
Yeah.
a million things. But if a capital partner wants to have like equity in a house and be part of it and they're looking for something, yeah, it brings a different tone. It's a little different.
Oh yeah.
So
Yep.
for that same reason, I've definitely been a little bit more patient than I normally would be. And hopefully
Right.
I don't overthink it. I'm never one to overthink it, but I've definitely
Yeah.
started seeing that in myself a little bit.
Yeah. That's gonna be my next like obstacle is, I mean, because the money's there, like you said. I mean, the
Right.
money's there. It's just a matter of um breaking that ice and like using somebody else's money, and it's just a
Right.
different process to follow. Like you said, when it's
Right.
your own money, you can kind of just see how it goes. And I mean,
Right.
you have an idea of how it's going to go, but you're not on a timeline. You don't have to,
Right.
like, so far I haven't had to like refinance or sell by a timeline to pay somebody off or anything like that. So that's the next hurdle I need to jump. And then also just consistency with,
Right.
what process am I going to follow to keep finding deals? Because ultimately, I mean, the end goal is to be running this full time. and just slowly start adding deals to the
Yeah.
portfolio. Um,
I always find that like right after I buy a house, a great opportunity
yes,
arises. And I'm like, darn.
yeah, and I feel like it's because you're on the roll too. Like I
Right.
said, when I found that duplex, and then I was just already in the rhythm, and then the house came up, and I was able to get the house, and then since I've cut back and just focused on those two, it's like it's hard to get back in that rhythm of like, okay, I'm constantly looking and submitting
Right.
offers. Like, when something comes up, that's where I need to get back into. So
Yeah. Even when we're in hard acquisition mode, it's almost like, my partner. So my partner, his name's Bucky. So
yeah,
Bucky and I'll like look at an MLS listing is usually how it starts, or we're on a bunch of the buyer lists with wholesalers. We'll see something there. But the last one was we were just planning on buying one house, and the MLS listing said there were multiple, it could be bought as a package. And then we're like, oh
yeah,
crap, these have been sitting for 100 days.
yeah,
120 days. So we just threw out a number that was like 40 grand. I think he wanted 275 for the two of them, two single family homes. And we did it for maybe like 230, and then got like 10 grand off at closing as well.
nice.
So like, but yeah, we did not mean to get two of them, but I really liked the areas. And so it's just really hard to say no. And we have
Yeah,
operated a little bit with like, if it's a really, really good deal, like we'll figure it out. And if we can't, the worst thing that happens is we lose like a grand on earnest money deposit and we don't make that mistake again.
yeah,
We haven't, luckily that hasn't happened, but
yep.
well, that's really cool. So it sounds like, as we kind of start to get to the tail end here, you kind of mentioned it, but what would what would like 1, 3, and 5 years look like for you if it could go perfect? What are you
Right.
looking
Yeah, yeah. So 1 year from now, I mean, by the end of this year, I'm hoping to pick up one or two more properties.
at? Yep.
By the end of this year, I'd like to close on one to two more properties.
Single families or multis, or what do you
Well, at
think?
this point, I really like the business model of like do a flip or two, buy a rental or two,
Yeah.
you know, do a flip or two to get some capital to park it in a rental, ideally as the biggest one you could buy with that, and then do a flip or two, buy another rental, use the flips to fund the holds.
Right.
So right now I'm either looking for a flip because
Right.
I don't really want to hold any single family rentals, but I would be open to doing a flip. Um, Essentially to buy more rentals, or unless I find a really good rental deal, then I would just either try to tackle it or I would try to find a partner to where I could tackle it. So
Right.
either a light to medium flip, nothing too extravagant. When we looked at one the other day, it was like way out of my scope, but
The firehouse.
that one too, yeah. Well, we looked at one in Rossville too. It was just above there was too many variables that I would have been guessing basically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then so 3 years from now, so ideally 3 years from now, I will have already made the jump to doing this full time, just running you know the rental business.
Yeah.
Ideally, if I could do it that way, of a couple flips to buy rentals, and then 5 years from now, um, man, that's kind of hard to say, but probably just at that far out. I mean, well, hopefully I'm just doing the same thing. I mean, I just
Yeah.
get, even just talking about it, thinking about it. I mean, I get fired up. Like the job I
Yeah.
have now, like I said, I make decent money. I mean, I'm only 26 years old. It gives me enough money to keep doing this,
Right.
uh, to keep trying to buy properties. But I, I don't enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
I get anxiety just getting ready in the morning, thinking about the day ahead of me. You know what I mean? And this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Obviously, there's stressors and there's things that go wrong, but I just like seeing it come together. Like
Yeah.
I'm not as good as putting together the creative financing and all that stuff, but I really like seeing a deal and like picturing how it's going to be when we're done with it, and seeing the remodel and everything come together and putting the contractors together. I like all that stuff, and it really is,
Yeah.
it motivates me. But 5 years from now, I would just like to be doing that. I mean, I would like to be at like 20 plus units, hopefully within
Yeah.
5 years. I'm at the point where, like I said, in the next 3 years, I would like to be doing it full time. I'm really only about $600 worth of cash flow away from reaching that first stage of, what you call financial independence.
Yeah.
So I'm
That's
about six hundred
awesome.
dollars away from having all my expenses covered, just due to house hacking and having a few rentals.
Yeah.
Especially with those rent increases that I was telling you about, that helped a ton. Um, and then after that, my main goal is just, I have such little expenses that I just need like a little bit. And
Yeah.
I want to, because I'm working full time, I want that foundation built to where, okay, I can jump into this and have something to where I know I can at least put gas in my truck and food in
Right.
the fridge. And I live pretty minimalist,
Yeah.
minimally. So then I'll be comfortable to make the jump. I like having the job because it's a safety net as far as like,
Right.
if a rehab goes south. It also helps me qualify for lending, all that
Right.
kind of stuff. But once I'm a little bit over breaking even, I'll be pretty comfortable in making the leap. So
One thing that I thought you said
yeah,
that is super important that I don't think enough people know is like, the exact dollar amount monthly of
I have
what
a spreadsheet.
your current expense is. But it
Yeah,
is super important, I mean,
yeah,
running, being an investor is running a business, right? And
yeah,
businesses have expenses, life has expenses, and and you're
yeah,
right. I mean, the majority of us do this to get the currency of time back in our day at some point. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And in order to do that, you have to be careful with what you spend. And it's interesting. So my wife and I are each 34. We turned 34 this summer, and we're still in the first house that we bought, and it is a small 3-bedroom ranch in suburban Massachusetts. And it's
yeah.
really interesting because and we have two kids and two Great Danes. So there's a lot of movement happening in this house. And, but we do have a lot of friends that, are kind of gearing up for that second house, that forever home. And
Yeah.
in our town, that costs like a cool $700,000 or $800,000, which is like twice as much as it was 6 or 7 years ago. It's just expensive.
Right.
And, my wife and I made that decision of, no, like, this is it. We're staying here. This house allows us to unlock all these other different levels in the game of life, right? Of,
Yep.
when we look at what the full portfolio is, I know the stuff I do in Chattanooga is with a good friend of mine, but when we look at that and then the two short-term rentals, yeah, it's, even with daycare being astronomical, it's still achievable, but
Yeah.
knowing what that nut is, knowing what that expense is each like month
Yeah.
is stage,
Yep.
that's like step one, right? That's
Yeah.
huge.
You gotta know you gotta know where you're going, or like what you're shooting for,
Yeah.
Otherwise you just, and to your point, that's what's really gonna, when I'm done here, like the end of this week, the tenants are moving back into the duplex. Like I said, the duplex is about wrapped up, but that's what's gonna kind of dictate. That's what I'm looking for in my next deal, basically. Where can I find this $600? So
Yeah.
um,
Would you cash out refinance in like a year or so? I mean, with lending home, you might need 3 years, but 2 years.
So lending home has a fee. Yeah. So the first year, so if you use their 30-year fixed rate hard money loan, like I did, their rental loan, they call it, the first year is a 3% fee. Second year is a
Right.
2% fee, and the third year is a 1% fee. But I mean, yeah, the value already when we're done is going to be way higher than what I bought it for. But the thing is like, with where rates are right now, well,
Yeah.
where rates were when I used it, even with a hard money loan, I was only at 5% for a
Right.
30
Which is
fixed.
awesome.
So like refining right now doesn't really make much sense.
Right.
But if I wait the 3 years and wait till that fee's gone, and rates may or may not be higher or lower, that we don't really know. But
Right.
I think yes, I do want to refi because there's more money tied up in that duplex than I wanted.
Right.
Um, but I think it'll make more sense later
Yeah.
because my position's not really going to change with the refi right now. It's just going to cash flow a ton less.
Hmm.
But because I'm not really getting that much better of a rate,
Right.
the only nice part about it is that I'd be getting some cash back,
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it might even make sense to refi and like not take the full amount, but just to get some of it
Sure.
back and get the cash on cash kind of like where I'd want it. Um,
Well, and to your
yeah, I don't have
point,
an exact
and
answer to that one yet.
and like to your point, like in Chattanooga, ESO, for people that don't know, East Ridge, I think saw 21.5% appreciation from this time last year.
Yeah.
And I would expect it would do the same next year. It might not do it every year for 3 years, but I think it's going to go on a good run for a while. And so to your point, if it's worth a lot more a few years, those rents could be 2,000 per side.
Yeah.
Then you can really leverage that to go buy something really expensive. Have you considered, I'm just curious if this interests you at all. Like, I know for me, I keep saying I'm going to do a flip and then I don't. I seem to hold it and rent it out. Like one
Yeah.
day I will do a flip. I mean, I rehab them, but I kind of like having, so I have two short-term rentals, one up in Maine. I'm leaving at like
Yeah.
5 o'clock tomorrow morning to go up there and work on it again. But
Awesome.
yeah, that is a special house. It's super cool. And I'm really excited. I'm going up because we're getting a hot tub delivered. Like this house in Maine has everything I've always wanted for my primary that I'm
Yeah.
way too scared to buy and spend money on.
Yeah.
um,
Well, you might be able to go stay up there here and there.
well,
I mean,
that's what we'll
I've
do,
been,
like around
yeah,
the
I've been following
holidays,
it, and I
and
mean, you're doing it full time now, so I'm sure you'll
it's
be up there at some point.
absolutely. But I love having like one short-term rental for every like 3 or 4 long-term rentals. Have you ever, I know Chattanooga has a lot of restrictions on that now,
Yeah.
but there's still the
Mhm.
midterm rentals. Have you ever thought of that?
Yeah. Well, my original plan with the basement was going to be to Airbnb it, but I honestly, my own fault. I didn't really do much research on the rules, especially right here in this area.
Sure.
So it turns out I couldn't Airbnb the basement, but I didn't look too much into it because I just knew I would be able to rent it out in one fashion or another, and that's all I really cared about.
Right.
Uh, but ideally, I was going to Airbnb it because I was doing the numbers, and I was like, man, we could basically live there for free if we could Airbnb it. Um, so yes, I have considered it before I got it leased up for a year down there. I was debating fully furnishing it and doing a 30-day rental, like a month to month, because that's not considered short term.
Right.
At least according to the rules, anything less than 30 days is short term. I
Right.
had the city send me the breakdown or whatever. But yeah, I have considered that. The biggest thing again is I'm working full time, so like those rentals take they're
Effort.
more management and all that stuff. And I've
Yeah.
actually got to the point where I just obviously it costs some money, but I just, as I was telling you, put everything into management because my my whole goal right now is just acquisition. Like buy it, get the work, manage the rehab and everything, and then pass it over, and then look for another one. That's going to be my whole strategy. Is just
Right.
if it's going to be a rental, just get it ready and then pass it over and just move
Yep.
on.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that
The
price is
amount,
at this moment.
yeah, the amount that property managers have done for us so I can have a good night's sleep at night is amazing.
Oh yeah,
It's truly amazing.
it is, and it's really the cost is really not that
Right.
significant. I mean, yeah, it's 10%, but a lot of these guys, the more units you have with them, the less you pay.
Right.
Um, they'll drop the percentage down, and it's not that much. Like 4 to 6 units, I think the people I'm with now, after 4 to 6 units, you can go from 10 to 8%.
Right.
It's really not that bad, and like 2,500 bucks a month, I pay 250, but like anything that needs to get done during that time is taken care of. The inspections are taken care of.
Right.
Uh, yeah. Even
And
just saying, hey,
placement,
can you
every
notify, even just through the rehab, I'm like, hey, can you notify the tenants that we're going to be a week behind or, whatever. I just don't even have to break that news to them. I just send an email and that's it.
no, it's
So,
the best. It's the best.
yeah.
Well,
Yep.
Cody, this was really awesome. I think it'd be fun to do another episode in like a year from now because I
Yeah.
think it's really neat. It's been fun watching you progress through this. And I remember when you were just looking, and funny
Yeah.
story, I remember where we chatted because I had not yet started working with Adrienne Green, who is the real estate agent that I use, and she
Yeah.
helped me started with her Investaway. Um, I was this no, I don't mind sharing this, but I'm sitting at the dentist's office because I had to
Yeah.
get braces. So I have braces right now for another few months, and so I'm sitting at the dentist's office waiting to have like my consultation or whatever. And so I hop on like Bigger Pockets on my phone. And
Yeah.
then I think it was you that had messaged something about like some different neighborhoods in Chattanooga, or like I can't quite remember the
Yeah. I was still in
exact thing.
Arizona. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so I was messaging with you and I saw Adrian post in that thread as well, I think. And I remember saying to to my business partner, "Oh, hey, that's the agent we have a meeting with later today. That's pretty cool. She's on Bigger Pockets." And
Yeah.
that's how I knew she was an investor. And then
Yep.
it's funny how it all worked. So
Yeah.
here we are a year
It's
later.
crazy how small the world is, and like, I don't know. That's and like one of the biggest things in moving here is just the network. Like the
Right.
network alone, the amount of people. None of this is really going on
Right.
where I was at. I mean, people invest in real estate there, but like, there's no meetups. There's no.
Right.
It's just different world. But it's
Right.
it's been great, and I think that's what's gonna help me get there.
Totally.
I mean, yeah, just since I've been here, I mean, I've seen you guys finish up those two single families and buy a couple Airbnbs already. I mean, it's been less than a year, so a lot's
It-
been going on.
to your point, it really is the network and the people you put yourself around. I
Oh
truly
yeah.
believe it. So
Yep.
well, awesome, Cody. What if someone wanted to find you or follow your story, how could they do that? How could they
Yeah.
find you?
Most active on Instagram. I do have them linked. Like if I put a story on Instagram, it goes on Facebook. But Gagnon REI on Instagram is GAGNON REI, and then on Facebook it's just Cody Gagnon. Yeah, but
Awesome.
those are pretty much linked. Anything that goes on one goes on the other. But the Instagram page is kind of tailored a little bit more to like real estate and just me. Yeah.
Some cool biking videos I've
Yeah,
seen on there.
I try to share like all the real estate stuff on there, and then that's what I do when I'm not working or real estate is I do a lot of cycling, and so just the fun side of things I post on there too. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, cool. Let's wrap this thing up. So yeah, we'll kind of debrief after, and it's okay if all of our listeners know
Oh
it.
yeah.
But yeah, so thank you, Cody, for joining on the Hassle Free RE podcast.
Oh
It
yeah.
really was a lot of fun walking through this story, and yeah, I think a year from now it'd be fun to do like another touch base, or even 6 months, and see how things are going. But
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on here with you.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, for anyone listening, make sure to follow Cody on Instagram. Reach out to him on Facebook. I'll have his Instagram in the show notes so people can easily find you. And this was super fun. Thanks so much,
Yeah,
Cody.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you.